Good morning guys and happy Monday. Today is actually the final Monday of 2019, which I feel like is crazy to say because the last few weeks just feel like they've gone so quickly and I can't believe we're almost about to enter a new decade. But although Vlogmas technically ended last week because Christmas is over, I thought I might as well continue on with another weekly vlog this week because I've still got a few days off work before I go back after Christmas, and I've got a few fun plans for the next couple of days as well that I thought it would be fun to show you. But mainly my first priority for this week is the fact that I've still got one more book to read before I reach my Goodreads goal for 2019, so that is my main thing that I need to focus on for this next couple of days. So I'll definitely let you know my thoughts on the book that I end up picking up. But for now, it's Monday morning and I'm heading out for a yoga class, which is also my first yoga class since Christmas, and I'm so excited because I feel like every time that I miss like a few days of yoga, I feel like my muscles just get so tight and I lose all my flexibility. So I'm super excited because obviously all the studios closed for Christmas and now they're open again, so I'm really looking forward to getting back to another studio class. So I'll catch up with you later on after yoga. Okay, so it's now Monday evening and I finally settled down to do some reading of my final book of the year, which is After I Do by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This was sent to me by Em as one of my Christmas presents and I was really excited to get it because I love Taylor Jenkins Reid's writing style. I find her books just really easy to get into and they're all just brilliant, and this was one that I haven't read yet, so I'm really looking forward to getting into it. Although technically I'm actually about halfway through already because I've spent most of this evening reading. And so far I am enjoying this book. However, I would have to say it's probably not my favourite of her books so far. So this book basically follows a woman called Lauren who basically got married to her like college sweetheart Ryan, and they had like a very sort of idyllic relationship, but 11 years down the line they're kind of finding that they've kind of drifted apart, and so instead of just separating entirely and giving up, they decide to take a year apart to try and see if they can sort of figure out what went wrong and maybe like reignite the spark in their relationship. So I'm kind of like partway through where they're just kind of involved in that separation at the moment, but it's kind of just getting started. So it is a really interesting concept. However, I feel like Lauren as a protagonist isn't necessarily as like gripping or compelling or relatable to me as some of the other Taylor Jenkins Reid protagonists that I've read before. So I think that's probably the reason that I'm not loving it quite as much as some of the other books of hers that I've read. But nevertheless, not enjoying this one as much as any of her other ones is still a great book because all of her books are brilliant, if you know what I mean. So it's one of them ones where it doesn't necessarily match up as much to her amazing books, but it's still good compared to other books. But I'm about to go and grab some dinner, but I think I'll probably do some more reading later on, so I'll catch up with you with some more thoughts then. So it's New Year's Eve today and I think we're just about to go out to play crazy golf. Jay and his family went to this place called Junkyard Golf last week, I think on Christmas Eve, but I was obviously out with my family then so I didn't go, but they all had an amazing time, so we're going back today and I'm super excited for that. And then I think we're also going to go and get some food, but I'm not sure where, but of course I'll bring you along and show you everything that we get up to. So we're obviously home from golf and I managed to come join 6th out of 7 people, so clearly crazy golf isn't my sport, but it was actually really fun. I wasn't very good, but I definitely had a good time, so it was kind of a win in that sense anyway. Then we went for a carvery and as you could see I managed to pile my plate up so high and I didn't even manage to eat half of it, but I'm still so full, so kind of in regret there. But anyway, we're home now and it's currently just after 5 p.m, so I've got about 6 hours and 50 minutes until the new year, so that means I've got to read the final like 90 to 100 pages of After I Do in the next few hours, which shouldn't be a problem, but I'm just going to sit down and get that blasted out now, I hope, just so then I can chill out for the rest of the evening. So it's just after 6 p.m. and I finished up with my 2019 Goodreads reading goal, which was to read 75 books this year with just about 6 hours to spare. So obviously I just finished up reading After I Do by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I ended up giving this book 4 stars. I'm really glad that I did read this as my last book of the year, just because I needed something that was quite light-hearted and quick and like fast-paced and easy to read, which I definitely found this book was, and that was exactly what I needed given that I only had a couple of days and I really wanted to make sure that I finished off my reading goal. So this was a perfect book for that. And in general, I just think Taylor Jenkins Reid has a really sort of fun, compelling writing style that's just sort of really easy for me to get into. But with that being said, I have to say this is probably my least favourite of her books that I've read so far. I give it 4 stars, which I think is probably the lowest I've rated one of her books ever, but even so, that's still 4 stars, so it's still an amazing book, just not necessarily as good as something like The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which in my opinion is just like phenomenal. But even so, it was a fun book, and I think given that it's a romance, as all of her books kind of are, it was definitely an interesting take on that, because it obviously focuses on a married couple who've decided that in order to try and save their marriage they need to take some time apart from each other, and so it's kind of like a, I guess, like reverse romance in a way, because they're trying to figure out whether or not they can do anything to make themselves love each other again, rather than just a couple in a typical romance where they just fall in love and that's kind of the whole story. So it was a really interesting take on the romance genre, and I did find it interesting, but I think the reason I didn't like this one as much as some of her other books is just because I didn't necessarily find the characters, and particularly the protagonist, to be as relatable or compelling as some of her other characters. But even so, it was a really fun book and I definitely enjoyed reading it and seeing how it turned out. I think as well there was a sort of time towards the end of the book when I thought perhaps it might go on a different way and it might kind of like challenge the perception that I had of how it would end, but then in the end it did end how I expected it to, which wasn't a bad thing, but it would have been kind of interesting to see if she'd have done it in a different way and how that might have changed the story. But nevertheless, it was interesting, and I'm super happy to have finished my reading goal for the year, because clearly I was cutting it fine, but I'm so happy that I managed to hit that goal by the end of 2019. Good morning guys, and Happy New Year. It is now the 1st of January and we had the most chilled out New Year's Eve ever, which I absolutely love. I never really have done much for New Year's, and that's the way I like it, so I'm pretty happy to be waking up feeling super fresh and well rested for the new year. So I think I'm just going to go make a special New Year's Day breakfast, because I've been fancying pancakes for the past few days, but I just haven't gotten around to making it. But I feel like, you know, if I'm going to do it any day, I might as well do it now on New Year's Day. So I think I'm going to go make a big stack of pancakes. Oh my god, those pancakes were incredible. What an excellent decision I made for my first breakfast of the year. But for now, Jay and I are heading out to go into town, although technically I'm not going to be buying anything, because for January I'm trying to do a spending ban. I've always heard people talk about these and I found them to be a very interesting concept, but I've always kind of like chickened out of it, or had something that I needed to spend and stuff like that, so I've never gotten around to doing one. But this year I'm actually taking part in a couple of challenges that have been set by Jacqueline, who runs the Weeby Book in Book Club, because she is basically a queen at like spending bans and just like saving money and minimalism and things like that. So she's hosting a couple of challenges. One is a January spending ban, and I feel like that's going to be a really great way to start the year, just by basically, obviously you're allowed to buy your essentials, so you know, like food, fuel, those kinds of things, but I'm cutting back on all of the like unnecessary spending. And then the other challenge that she has set is a 2020 book buying ban. Now everyone is kind of making their own rules for that, and I'm still kind of formulating mine about like what allowances I'm going to make and things like that. But last year I found myself buying so many books to the point where I wasn't reading the ones I already owned, and I just buy them for the sake of it. And it is nice to own books and I do like having a nice collection, but I also just want to be a little bit more conscious of what I'm buying and not buying things before I need them, so making sure that I'm actually reading what I own before I get new things. So those are a couple of challenges that I'm doing. But Jay and I are just heading into town, and I think we're going to go outdoors, because in the spring we're wanting to start doing some like camping and things like that. So I think we're just going to check out some of the like tents and camping equipment, but I don't think we'll be actually buying anything, so I'm going to allow myself to go and just have a look. So it's currently about 5:30 and this day has gone so quickly, which I feel like always happens when it's your last day off of any kind of holiday. But I've been trying to do one of my New Year's resolutions is to make sure that I do yoga at home every day. I obviously try and go to the studio as much as possible. I haven't done that much over Christmas because most of the studios has been closed, but usually when I'm at work and they're actually open, I go to the studio like 4 or 5 times a week, so I'm happy with that. But I'm doing my yoga teacher training in spring and I really want to make sure that I've got like a strong at-home yoga practice as well as going to a studio a lot. So that's my resolution for January, is to try and make sure that I practice yoga at home in some form. It doesn't have to be super long, but basically every single day at home. So I'm going to be doing that, and I'm also trying to work on my inversion practice, so like headstands and handstands and stuff. So I think I'm just going to spend a little bit of time doing some yoga and some handstands and things like that, and then it'll probably end up being time for dinner because this day is just going like that. So it's the 2nd of January, which means that Christmas is officially over and I'm going back to work today. And although that's not a terrible thing, I did not appreciate the 5:15 alarm this morning because I've been enjoying my sleep-ins and just having like chilled out mornings, and I was not ready to wake up that early this morning. But I thought I'd let you know which book I'm going to be starting 2020 with. So the book I'm starting with is actually one that I picked up originally in December and I was quite enjoying it. However, it was going to be a little bit more of a slow burning read and I needed to read fast, as I mentioned earlier in this video, because I was still a few books away from my like 2019 reading goal. So I just kind of put this book to one side and knew that I was going to start it up again in January, and that is The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton. So I'm currently about 70 pages into this book, and so far it's basically like a classic murder mystery type novel where there is a death that people are trying to figure out. It's set at a big like manor house where there's a big party going on, so it's got that very like classic murder mystery feel to it. However, it's kind of got a bit of a twist because the main character that we're following is a guy who has woken up and he believes someone has been murdered, so the mystery is kind of surrounding him. However, he has no idea who he is and is kind of trying to piece that mystery together as well. So that's kind of an interesting start to the story, but it was just kind of taking a little while to lift off, which is why I had to leave it in December. But I am looking forward to getting back into it now, and I'll be picking this one up on my lunch break later on at work. Made it through the first day back, although I'm definitely feeling it because I'm just not used to that long A without, you know, chilling in my pyjamas, and B, snacks. So I'm definitely looking forward to a chilled out evening. But I did actually get quite a bit of reading done on my lunch break, and I'll definitely give you a little bit of an update on that later. But for now, it's time for some dinner, and I'm feeling like just a simple soup and sourdough type of dinner because A, it's really cold and I could do with something nice and warming and cozy, and B, I really can't be bothered to cook anything super complicated. So I'm gonna go and get that, and then I'll catch up with you about The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle after I've eaten. So it turns out soup was exactly the kind of dinner I needed, and I'm now feeling way more energetic than when I came home, which is always a good thing. So I thought, as I mentioned, I'd give you a little bit update on my reading. So I only managed to read up to page just over 215, so not a huge amount of reading, maybe like 30 also pages on my lunch break, but oh my god, were they a good 30 pages. But I feel like this was like the turning point in the book. Things started to go a little bit more fast paced. As I mentioned earlier, I kind of abandoned this one in December because it was a bit of a slow burner to begin with. It was interesting, but just not as fast paced as I wanted, but the book has kind of developed a little bit more. So as I mentioned, it's basically a murder mystery type book. However, like I said, the main character is a guy who wakes up in a body and he's confused about who he is, and the story's kind of developed now to the point where you figure out that he has 8 opportunities to try and figure out the murder mystery and figure out who has committed the murder, but he does that in 8 different bodies. So each day he wakes up in the body of a different guest at the party, and that is so interesting to me. I really can't wait to find out how the story develops because it sounds like such an interesting concept. Particularly because over Christmas I did a 24-hour readathon where I read like only festive books for one day, and one of the books that I picked up was called Portrait of a Murderer, and I picked up that book hoping that it was going to be like a classic murder mystery because that's what the blurb sounded like. But if you've seen that vlog, which I'll link in the description below, it ended up being quite a disappointing read because it wasn't like that at all. Whereas this book, although definitely not festive, is 100% ticking that box because it's got such a murder mystery vibe, especially given that it's set in like a fancy manor house party, but it's also got a cool paranormal kind of element in the sense that this guy has a few different opportunities to take on several different perspectives of the party, and he's getting to be in so many different bodies. And then yeah, you've got this like sense of escaping, or him wanting to escape this situation that he's trapped in. So I'm absolutely loving it, and I'm so glad this is the first book I'm reading this year because I was enjoying it already, but it's now gone on such a twist that I can't wait to find out what happens. So I'm looking forward to picking this one up again tomorrow, but still got one more day of work left before the weekend, so I'm probably going to head and get an early night so that I can keep up this energy tomorrow for the last day of the week. So it's Friday lunchtime and quite exciting. We've just been to Greggs to pick up the new vegan steak bakes because it's veganuary, and Greggs have released these along with a few other things which I'm so excited to try. But this one in particular is kind of exciting just because steak bake is something that's just like super not vegan, so I don't know what it's going to be like, but I'm really looking forward to trying it. And also we got there and they had none, and they put some fresh in the oven, so these are super hot and I'm looking forward to giving it a try.
Oh, that's yeah, I'm just going to do that, I think. Well, okay, thank you for your help and wasting your time with that one, you know. But I just wanted to check that I'd like, you know, not sort of miss anything out before like resorting to
wow.
that. That's okay.
Okay, so I've actually never had a normal steak bake, so I don't know how good that is by comparison, but that tastes so nice. The pastry is obviously amazing because it's Greggs, but then the gravy inside and like the vegan steak is so tasty. It's like a super rich oniony gravy, but oh my god, that's really good. So definitely got a thumbs up from me. And we also picked up some of their donuts, which we're going to have later, so I'll let you know what I think of them too. So it is now Saturday evening and I haven't filmed anything all day because spontaneously last night I decided to do a 24-hour readathon, which obviously has its own vlog, so I've kind of been filming that all day. But I'm going to end out this weekly vlog here and pick it up again tomorrow morning on Sunday. I'm totally losing track of the days. It's weird being back at work because obviously I only went back for 2 days, so Friday felt kind of like a Tuesday and now I'm just basically a little bit confused. But yeah, I feel like reading this week has gone, you know, not the best. This book seems to just be like my Everest. It just seems to be taking me forever to get through. Even though I am genuinely really enjoying it, I just can't seem to make any progress on it. And really that's my own fault because I keep pushing it to one side and picking up other things instead. So who knows, maybe next week will be the week that I actually manage to, you know, finish this book. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed anyway because I would really like to get through the rest of that book and see what happens. But thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed seeing this like New Year first week vlog type thing, and I'll see you next week for another one.